Here's a scene in front of the Nike store on North Michigan Avenue. As you take a look, protesters blocking access to the store. The store is not officially closed, but they haven't had a customer in a long time. Now let's take you out over onto Michigan Avenue, and you'll see this is normally a very, very busy thoroughfare, not unlike Rodeo Drive or anything else, and it's pretty much empty. It's been like this all day long since about 10 o'clock, and it is going to be carrying on certainly as the sun comes down. If you take a look behind me, there are pockets of people in front of all the stores, the Zara store, for example, down there, where again, the same effort is being made to block access to these stores on Black Friday to send a message that the people in this community are very upset with the video that showed the killing of Laquan McDonald. They think that by taking this kind of action, by making stores and profits the focus, that they'll be able to bring focus onto their issues as well. They're also promising to have this kind of activity go on for the next 30 days or so as we go through the holiday period. Reporting from Chicago, Ravi Baichwal, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you. Ron, it has been a long day here on Michigan Avenue on the Magnificent Mile. The protests continuing, as you can see right behind me. Groups of activists, they're unionists, they're students, they're everyday people. They've been out here all day to talk about their disgust over the circumstances surrounding the death of Laquan McDonald and what they say that says about how justice works in Chicago.
16 shots! 16 shots!
By 11 a.m., hundreds of activists gathered where the river meets the Magnificent Mile. They were met by police in the hundreds who, for the most part, created space for protesters upset about the death of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald at the hands of police to shut down Michigan Avenue for several hours on the busiest shopping day of the year.
It is peaceful, and if you want to make change, you got to do it economically.
As two massive formations march north, then south, then north once again along the prestigious thoroughfare, commerce was disturbed.
We want to have a good city. We want to have a great Christmas, but it's amazing how a homeless child has aroused this interest. But after all, the first Christmas was about a homeless child.
Big-name corporate outlets such as the Apple Store and Nike Town were heavily targeted. Nonviolence did mark the protests.
Why is it so important for you to fly that flag in this protest?
Because one of the things I don't want to see, and I know a lot of people in the city don't want to see, is violence. We don't want to see violence. That's what got us here right now.
But organizers say this level of civic unrest will carry on until there is fundamental reform in the culture of the Chicago Police Department.
This is not going to be a single event. We plan over the next 30 days, hitting every economic sector of Chicago, keeping the pressure on the mayor, office, the police department, and the state's attorney until we have some justice.
And we're back live. You can take a look. The traffic only started flowing about 2 hours ago, and as we come back live over here, these protesters supposedly are supposed to shut it down around 7 o'clock tonight. We're talking to a lot of folks here, and they're going to keep going well past that hour. Reporting live from Michigan and Huron, Ravi Baichwal, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you in the studio.
1,000 feet up in Chopper 7 HD. We're over one of the most devastated neighborhoods from a year ago. We're at Kingsbury and the Tottenham Court area. The construction has not been completed in any large measure.
Wait and see.
Despite the smile and casual attire, Sam Zell was crystal clear. Last-minute delays that he said made this the deal from hell have been ironed out, and it is all business ahead for the Tribune Company.
I think that historically the company has not been as responsive as it should be in a timely fashion.
Promising a new era of accountability for managers, Zell is going to try to make the nation's second largest publishing company produce more profit from a range of assets, including the newspaper and the LA Times, WGN and dozens of other television and radio stations and internet properties.
I think it's a very low-risk investment. But this wouldn't be the first time that my opinion diverged from everybody else's.
A strong knack for seeing value where others don't necessarily see value and buying in on the cheap.
That skill has earned Zell the nickname the Grave Dancer, a sobering but intriguing title for the new boss. He says he's not as interested in cutting as he is increasing revenues. How does that make you feel?
I love when he said that.
That people are waiting to see what's going to happen and ready for something new.
The man known as the Lord of Cross Harbor, the former owner of the Chicago Sun-Times, the Daily Telegraph in London, the Jerusalem Post, and hundreds of dailies across North America, sits accused, along with 3 other former colleagues, of using Hollinger International as his personal piggy bank to the tune of over $80 million, allegedly misappropriated money that should have gone to Hollinger shareholders rather than Black and Company when Hollinger sold a range of papers in the late 1990s and early 2001.
Mr. Greenspan, any comment this morning?
Black has hired some of the best-known attorneys in Chicago and Canada, including Edward Jensen, who defended Larry Warner in the trial of former Illinois Governor George Ryan. But the cost of not pleading guilty to over a dozen counts of fraud and racketeering has been extremely high. Black has had to give up homes he shared with his glamorous wife, conservative columnist Barbara Emile, in London, New York, and Florida. The couple now spend most of their time in Toronto, where Lord Black is trying to regain the Canadian citizenship he gave up to accept his British title. In court today, Judge Amy St. Eve began the process of impaneling a jury for the case. For Black, getting a dozen Chicagoans to understand his defense that he did nothing wrong and monies paid to him were part of normal business will be a challenge.
If you can find a jury of lords and ladies and rich people from the suburbs, you got yourself a jury of peers.
Still, the story of Lord Black in a Chicago court will go on for a long time.
He's a major figure in Britain, and in Britain, people take a certain delight, unfortunately, in major figures' downfall. And his own papers have profited from that for many years, and now he seems to be the target of that kind of coverage.
The candidates, young and experienced and everything in between, approached the Spirit Airlines table with resumes and hope in their hands.
Did you need my driver's license?
It's a smaller crowd in the afternoon compared to the morning session, but the goal is the same, to grab the glamour that, for these people at least, still exists in flying for a living.
How important is it for you to nail this job?
It is very important to me. It's been my lifelong goal. I've always wanted to be a flight attendant.
I would like to feel confident, but I know it's really competitive. I looked for other jobs, summer jobs, and it's really hard. Hopefully, it's going to get better.
Spirit is creating a Chicago hub for its discount airline, an acknowledgement that after years of lower expectations, the traveling public might be prepared to take its cue from the stock markets that good times may be returning. The big indices all hit record highs today, with the Dow crossing the 15,000 mark before finishing just below, and the S&P 500 getting to 1614, all on the back of a strong April jobs report that included upwardly revised jobs numbers. The national unemployment rate now is 7.5%.
The main factor is the monetary policy of the Fed, keeping interest rates low for so long. That makes investors more willing to buy equities.
Today's market action, however, illustrates what Torralba says is the new normal about expectations for job growth.
It's unreasonable to expect, the normal employment rate to by 5%. The normal, I think, is somewhere between 6 and 7.
That reality is what is especially hard for those such as Sherry Flack, who took a buyout from American Airlines 15 years ago to raise her family.
We come from a community where there's not a lot of opportunity. There's not that many large companies out where we live.
Wealth of our city, all the intellectual knowledge of our city, and bring it to our kids and our families who otherwise would not get it. This is what a great city does.
Over several years, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will restore what used to be Meigs Field to what nature intended, a grassland on the shore of an inland sea full of birds, savannas, and wildlife. The city's park district will get the kids out through their programming, which includes providing the right equipment for such adventures as camping and sailing and learning survival skills. Some spaces will be reserved for at-risk youth. And the Field Museum, Adler Planetarium, and Shedd Aquarium will help design initiatives.
Research has shown that participating in wilderness programs has a major impact on the emotional and intellectual development of a child.
Jada Parker recently went camping on Northerly Island as part of a first wave of Chicago kids to get this kind of exposure in the city.
I think it makes people less materialistic, and it makes, especially being in a city like Chicago, it makes you more want to be okay, well, let's get out more and do more stuff like that.
The first phase of the restoration project will cost $4.3 million, with $2.8 million coming from a federal grant and the remaining $1.5 million coming from revenues generated by the concert stage at Northerly Island. Chicago's new camping experience is scheduled to be up and running next year. Ravi Baichwal, ABC 7 News. The demonstrators hit the streets of Chicago again to protest the police shooting death of Laquan McDonald, and they bring along a symbolic coffin in front of City Hall. And Reverend Jesse Jackson announcing plans to escalate protests. Eyewitness News reporter Laura Train joins us now live with the latest tonight. Laura, thank you. Businesses on Michigan Avenue feeling the impact of yesterday's protest over the death of Laquan McDonald. Several stores were forced to close hours early on one of the busiest shopping days of the year. And for an update on that part of the story tonight, here's Eyewitness News reporter Evelyn Holmes. The search continues for a third man accused of killing 9-year-old Tyshawn Lee earlier this month. Chicago police say that the boy was targeted, all part of gang retaliation, and they believe that Kevin Edwards lured Tyshawn to an alley where someone else shot and killed him. A warrant for first-degree murder has now been issued for Edwards. 2 other men, 21-year-old Dwight Boone Doty and 27-year-old Corey Morgan, have also been arrested. The police say that all 3 men are members of the same gang. The suspect is identified in that deadly shooting spree at a Planned Parenthood clinic in Colorado, and he is accused of killing 3 people and wounding 9, and 5 of them police officers, during a 5-hour standoff. So the big question tonight is why? Brandy Hitt has the latest now from Colorado Springs. Friends start a makeshift memorial for 3 teenagers killed in a single car crash in McHenry County. Authorities say that the teens were traveling in a Camaro on Friday afternoon. It veered off South Lily Lake Road and it struck several trees. The victims are Promise Williamson, James Seward, and Kelly Cronin, all age 18.
Now, from Chicago, you're watching Ravi Bechwal, Karen Jordan, sports with Dion Miller, and weather with meteorologist Phil Schwartz. ABC 7 Eyewitness News at 6 continues.
Breaking news on the Saturday night, a man is charged after a body is found in a suitcase in Midlothian. On Thursday, police were flagged down and asked to investigate a foul odor at a condo building. They found the body of Kimberly Putterlick inside a suitcase. Investigators say her roommate told them she died of an apparent overdose nearly 2 weeks ago. According to the police, he hid the body. Alexander Acevedo is now charged with concealment of a death and obstructing justice. Well, this is the weekend that many shoppers open their wallets. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but nestled in between those 2 big shopping days is Small Business Saturday. Eyewitness News reporter Jade Hernandez shows us how shopping local drives the economy of a neighborhood. Slow-moving winter storm in northern Texas blamed for at least 8 deaths there. First responders have been busy with swift water rescues from flash flooding. One man calling for help from a tree when he and his dog got caught in floodwaters right there. Look at that. Firefighters had to use pings from his cell phone to find him. And after this nail-biting rescue, yes, indeed, everyone was safe. The dog, of course, showing its appreciation to rescuers. How do you like that? Tough times down in Texas. Troy Christensen is here. Phil's on holiday. I was out in Michigan Avenue all day yesterday, and it was cold and rainy. Today, a lot nicer.
Yeah, today a lot nicer. That same storm system that brought that flooding in Texas brought us the rain yesterday. Temperatures looking pretty nice with the readings back in the mid-40s. Next weekend, looking a bit warmer, so something to look forward to.
All right. We won't be building the rink next weekend. We'll talk about that later.
Unfortunately not.
Thanks, Troy. Good to see you. And now, tonight, after the game here on ABC 7, it is one of our food reporters' favorite ways to use leftover rice. A far north side restaurant letting customers make it themselves. It's all tonight on the Saturday Night Sampler on our news. Next up in sports, high school champions being crowned, including a prince from Montini and some road runners from Nazareth. Highlights coming after the break. All right, sports time. Dion is here. It's all about football at this time of year, isn't it?
Final regular season Saturday for college football.
Yeah.
Illinois playing to hopefully keep their season going, but they did get.
All right, thanks so much. Santa Claus taking some time off from making toys to visit some kids in Bloomingdale today. He left all his reindeer at the North Pole. Look at this. He comes in by chopper. Not Chopper 7 HD, might as well have been though. Mrs. Claus also joining the big guy there. Children getting to tell Santa what they wanted for Christmas, even taking pictures with him. Families also got to enjoy Christmas carolers, face painting, balloon animals. Thanksgiving's over, kids. It's getting ready, time for Christmas.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Not quite yet, but
I've got a long ways to go.
I love the energy of it.
It's beautiful. All right, that's our news for this evening. For Troy Christensen and Dion Miller, I'm Ravi Bechwal. Join us again tonight.